Hello, everybody. Welcome to this beautiful little video in which I, Thorsten Kreutz, which you either have not ever seen or heard from at all, interviewed this guy, Nazim Agabekov. God, I hope I named your name this time.
Got it.
Onto how the hell he managed to scale our business from, barely hitting 2 million to now being on the best way to hit 6 this year in less than 15 months. It's been a very wild ride.
Oh, it's been close to a year, 12 months. So
12 months. Okay. Well, yeah, right. So, Nazim, you've been a business consultant for ages. You're literally the go-to guy if people with coaching businesses need to grow. How do I know this? Well, because I know you before you were that person. When I was back at Schlanker 7 years ago, and running a 40 people team, growing Germany's second biggest weight loss platform, I was completely overwhelmed because marketing for me back then was what I was good at, but running processes that grow teams and then like build all these structures and stuff, that was way too much for me personally. And funny enough, back then we didn't work on that, but today this is what you're helping people like almost the most with, at least if I would sum it up in one particular sentence. What do you think was like what was like your impression from us when we started? What was like the worst things that you saw, the best things that you saw?
definitely, I think relational capital and you guys at the company was one of the things that I was pleasantly surprised about the most. I believe that a company can achieve anything with the right people, right? And I was really pleased when I came on board. There was you, there was Zasha, there was Chris, and all the other, like you said, beautiful people in charge of very specific things, right? And all I did was pretty much toss more gasoline on fire, and it kind of like erupted now. And I hope we can continue our way to hitting 10, 15, 20, 30 million a year. Sure we will. But for me, like it's like one of the biggest things, and probably one of the reasons also like that I took this project was because I knew you personally, but then also after talking to the team and kind of like seeing that each department has its head, and that I could work with someone individually, and every person was like very on it. That was a big thing, right? Because there's no point for maybe someone like me to come onto a project with like one or two people, right? Like the things I'm going to say probably at that point are just going to be common sense advice, right? It's really at the point where when you start scaling, you have a sales team, you have some people in marketing, some people in charge of product, is when I come on, audit things and figure out ways to do better.
I think you're selling yourself short, man. I remember very distinctly when I was working with you with Schlanker, you had some marketing ideas as well. And I had a marketing team, but I was the one talking to you. So in like 20 minutes of coaching, you managed to give me homework for 2 weeks, just like I do with my clients right now. But back then I wasn't in the coaching business. And I remember, geez, I need 3 people to do half the work of what you're supposing we can do together in like a very short time frame, because that was what needed to be done. And this is so interesting because most of the business coaches out there, right, they're very comfortable if they work with persons one-on-one. Some of them are very good at managing groups. Almost nobody is good at, or let me rephrase this, gets much better and has a much higher impact and amount of leverage that he can bring to bear if the team is already bigger, especially in coaching and service-based businesses. So for us, just so people understand this, when we started out, we had like 5 people who were coaching and closing and running the marketing and doing everything. They came in as closers. They started coaching right away because we closed too much. First month was 380K. And then from there, of course, all the mayhem begins. If you start big and then sort of while running, have to build the train that you're actually already on, just so nobody falls off it. And then you came in at a very pivotal time for us because we managed to sort of dig ourselves into a little bit of a trench. And I knew who you worked with before. I knew your track record. So when we had the opportunity to work with you, it was an instant game changer. But what were the biggest shifts as a whole you saw for us? Because, I mean, you're the only one I know who works a lot in sales, very well on product and structures, and also has the marketing competency that you spent the first 5 years of your business life with consulting. So what was the biggest shifts in those areas that you saw with us?
For sure, as much as I take on the compliment, I appreciate your compliment that I'm also like product focused. I would have to admit that my biggest promise and the biggest focus when I come on board working with companies is money and cash collected. So I'll speak to that point specifically, or the kind of like things I'll list are the biggest, I would say, trigger points that we kind of like worked on to really improve consistent cash flow in the company and 3x revenue, yearly revenue in 1 year, which is nice. And we're still going strong. So I would say the first thing we looked at, and it's something actually we discussed even earlier this week on our stand-up, was the offer, right? And more specifically, average customer lifetime value, earnings per client. And I think it was like just that one thing alone. I mean, I don't know if it doubled, but like it for sure added a good hefty 50, 60% plus on top of revenue, simply because we're really realize that we don't have to have that many offers. We can focus on the few good ones, package them really well, sell the crap out of them, and then deliver on them like hell, right? So that was kind of like a big thing. So figuratively speaking, when we went from an average order value for 5K, for example, to like 10K, and now even I think with us now it's like 15K plus per person, which is amazing, because again, like if you have a good CAC, like customer acquisition cost, like 3-4K, and you're averaging 15K plus, I mean, only good things happen unless your overhead costs like go through the roof, right? So that's that. I would say the offer was like a big thing. What do you think about that? Do you have any memories of how we went through this process?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a wild ride for two reasons. One, because the reason we had too many offers is because I was still actively selling our mastermind back then. And right now there's people in there, but it's closed off to the public. And because there were acquisition processes, onboarding processes, and customer avatars that were different from other products. Basically, we had two companies at once. We had one starting with teams and basically businesses that outgrew their owner like years ago, where it wasn't about doing everything yourself anymore, but running and building structures and all these things for 120 to 250K. And then we had a completely different level where it was an entrance level of like 5K with a secondary product level of between 15 and 20K. And because we already had the high ticket, designing this mid-ticket, which is the follow-up to the entrance product, became troublesome because in the beginning the price difference wasn't as high. So basically here was me still coaching and the team coaching, and here was me and the team coaching. So we first had to stop making this available to people who can afford like to spend 30 or 50K. And once we were done there, we actually realized delivering on the 120K level, unless those are perfect clients that we handpick, is shit ton of work because people's teams can't keep up with the speed of having you, me, or anyone with that kind of background on their asses 2 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 6 hours a week, giving them homework and asking them questions. So chunking down and then really going hard on okay, what is the most value we can actually give people in the shortest amount of time, and put that into a time frame where the client has time to actually get to the point where they see themselves doing the things and getting the results, and it seems natural to them, not like a tour de force where it's getting worse and worse and worse and sprint after sprint after sprint. That was a journey. So we ended up having our bestseller product being our mid-tier product, which is a year-long product, which is very rare in the market, and customers are raving about the results. And I'm like really grateful to you because you refocused us on, okay, what gives you the most value that also gives other people the most value, and how do you package this correctly? And it's so funny because I say this in the marketing show every single week to almost all of our participants in our free show. But in our particular business, because we had this insane value of basically us running their marketing and sales and whatever for them, we didn't see that the bridge here looked very different. On product side, this was the biggest thing. And then we had huge impact from you on the sales side as well. Talk a little bit about what you were able to help us with on the sales and structure side, because I know for a fact that my company doesn't look at all like it looked when you started or right before you started in that department. And I would love to have your take on it, especially like how is it different from other people you work with? How is it the regular stuff? But like mostly what is like, how did you see us and what did change in that department?
For sure. Just to finish about the point on the offers, I think Jay Abraham calls it to slow down to speed up, right? So in a way, we kind of like have to slow down a little bit and let go of the little nice juicy piece, but then in exchange for greater rewards, which we're obviously experiencing now. I think when we started selling those year-long packages, I think it wasn't until like 3-4 months later when we were like, wow, like the cash flow, recurring cash flow base is like really going up, because we started really enrolling, let's say 5, 10, 15, 20 plus of these people per month. It was really, I think, by the end of 2020 or like in the fall of 2020, when we realized that the cash flow we're getting from this product, what was that?
2022, I heard 2020, 2020 we didn't start yet.
2022, yeah, for sure. 2022, when we realized that, wow, okay, that's cool. It's kind of like the overhead costs are covered above and beyond with this offer. Plus, whatever we'll bring on the front end is a nice kind of like a profit buffer. And of course, right now we're just focused on bringing up this recurring cash flow up even more. So I would say that's it for the offers. For sales, yes. First of all, going back to the kind of like people element that I mentioned earlier, I'm very grateful to everyone in the sales department, because when I came on board, there were people in there, right? And I'm going to even name drop specifically Zasha. Pretty cool guy, still working together and going strong, who was head of sales at the time, still is. And it was with him that we had to kind of like sit down and look at a few things. First of all, kind of like reverse engineer the math, which Chris from the marketing department is also played a huge role in this, like to reverse engineer. So it's real teamwork to reverse engineer what it would really take to hit, for example, 300K in sales, then 500K in sales, then 750K per month in sales, which we also did. But it wasn't until we sat down and I came up with this vital KPI sheet where we really reversed the order of what it would take to hit this final number, and then how many sales, at what average value, how many sales calls attended, how many sales calls booked, at what close rate, how many leads, all of that. Once we had the clear picture from that kind of like foundation, we could build up. And it wasn't, of course, without marketing and sales. I mean, it's marketing multiplied by sales is when you have revenue, right? Marketing brings in the leads, sales people close them. For sales specifically, so first of all, it was really figuring out those numbers and kind of like setting multi-tier framework where, let's say, phase 1 is hitting this, phase 2 is hitting this. And of course, on every level, we would have sort of challenges we would have to figure out, right? And a couple of things we had to improve on was, again, understanding really like the availability we have, the availability we need to open up, all the new salespeople we need to hire to really accommodate this X amount of calls we had to get on. So that was 1. 2, not after, but parallel to it, we also had to train the sales team, right? And of course, I give here more credit to Zasha than to myself, because I wasn't working directly with the sales team, kind of like managing more on a macro level. But Zasha did an amazing job with the sales team, working with them hand in hand and really bringing up their skills. Of course, there were some frameworks, scripts I would share that he would then pass on and train the sales team on. But it was really working together with him, where we increased the sales team capacity. We improved the sales team's sales quality and sales process. And last but not the least, of course, everything that comes to like smaller technical processes for what the intake form before people book a call looks like, the jot form, right? What comes first, booking call or jot form, playing around with that, how the funnel works, and basically what we have to do, how we need to align all the steps that would maximize the quantity of leads without impairing the quality. And as you know, we did some experiments that some of them crashed and burned, some of them were proven to be quite fruitful. So we had to go through our process there. So yeah, so that was sales, and then for marketing, of course, I mean, the jewel in your crown is the shows, live shows, right? That you guys do every week or multiple times a week is a concept that I was familiar with it. I would see people do them on launches, during launches, but I never saw people do them as the main lead generation source and multiple times a week, right? So it was definitely something awesome that would still brings a high, nice quality of leads. But then with Chris and media buyers, we're really focused on defining how many people we need to get on those live shows, and then kind of like maximizing what those shows really produce, right? What's the best way to, let's say, gather phone numbers, working with Zasha and the sales team, that salespeople call those people up with a specific script to book them for consultation calls, like lots of work on the thank you page for when they sign up, like all that good stuff. Like your head is spinning, right? From the 12 months of.
Yeah, that's just thinking what we all packed in these months, because I mean that's the power of teams, right? Because you didn't have to come up with something that you then had to implement with one person, but it was like 5 people working in marketing, then later 10, and then there's the sales team of setters and organizational and assistant staff in the background, plus closers, of course, and a marketing manager later on. You had so much leverage with us, and I'm personally the most grateful for thinking about what you all just said, how little work it was for me. And it sounds horrible, but because we had a team and I had team leads, you could work with my team leads. I was out of operations the entire time. The only reason I'm sometimes back in operations is when we're opening up a new department or opening up a new funnel that I'm, for some reason, because maybe I'm the face of it, more involved in. I worked 7 to 11 hours a week actively, plus maybe passively or on extra calls, 5 to 10 hours, while our business tripled. And I mean, the reason our business was so low in the beginning, even though we had such a start in the first years, because of you, we canceled a 7-figure business inside our business, developed and bet on something new. And with the structures and processes and all the nuts and bolts that you gave us from your been there, done that, do this, and you'll be successful approach that you so greatly have, we were able to go take this one part of our business that was maybe less than $1 million and turn it into 5 times or like at least 3 times of what the total business was less than a year or a little bit more than a year later. And that is something which I quite frankly haven't seen before, and I wouldn't know where to get this elsewhere. I mean, we can talk about criteria later, but for me, working with you allowed me to really just gain a competitive advantage in the sense that I get a shortcut for the next 3 years of growth. Because if you have to find out what the next part to work on is, and then have to find out how to do it right, and now that influences a bunch of other stuff in your business, and then you have to pick which of these to address first, because some of them will go away if you find the right next step, and others will get bigger even though you were never supposed to solve them. And if you're having your head spinning right now, that's because you're probably in a similar situation and are currently overloaded by exactly these kinds of problems. And this guy comes in and gives you the clarity what to work on next, why, what to ignore, what will go away by itself, what will become less of a pain later, and what will become a solvable problem later that right now is unsolvable but creates a shit ton of pressure for you. And that's honestly, I'm super grateful for that, because the most important thing for me personally was, hey, I know this stuff, I know how to grow a business to 8 figures, but what I didn't know was this particular business model in this particular field with this particular setup, because we had a team that I never had with. I had to grow them from the beginning like this. All the sales processes were different. Before I was like low ticket and extremely high scale, thousands, if not 10,000 customers per month. Now we're making millions with less than 100 customers. And you have all of these. What would you say, besides the fact that they need to have a team, and the fact that they need to be at least 7 figures is the deciding factor that you can help grow business so quickly? Are there other criteria, and why are these ones so important?
I would say the team is probably one of the most important ones. I would say it's the team and the product. Yeah, and you guys have both. We need the product. I think is the most important, right? Because you can shovel crap, but your arms are going to get tired at some point, right? So you need something that's light, that delivers on, and so product is important. But then also it's the people who shovel, right? And having a team. And I don't even think it's as much the quantity of people as it is about quality. Of course, there's a certain amount of there's a critical amount that you need to have to. I mean, I would assume if you're at 7-8 figures, you already have quite a few people working on board, but it's more so about the quality and the togetherness of people and how much they're on board with the mission is what matters. And I mean, of course, you kind of like take the 2 out of 2 in your project, which I'm also grateful for to you guys. So,
was there any big surprises along the way?
A big surprise. I mean, I already said that a big surprise was actually how far you've come with the things you have. And I was like, man, if like some things, I don't want to say they were bad, but so undertapped that with it almost felt common sense, but brought stellar results, which is great. It makes my job easier, right? But there were some like ridiculously glaringly obvious things, at least to me, that we implemented, and relatively fast too, that brought up some amazing results, which is why a doctor needs a doctor too, right? On one hand, you're a business consultant and a freaking great one at that. But even in your case, guys, you need like an onlooker, right? Who comes on board and kind of like picks things apart a little bit, starts questioning them, and maybe proposing a better way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, before I had this interview, and because this happened in our client base from time to time, I was thinking like, okay, I'm a business consultant in the broadest sense of the word. And I'm talking to another business consultant, and I'm telling everybody that I needed a business consultant in order to grow my business. Now, there's a lie in this sentence. I wouldn't say I needed you or our business needed you. I would say it would have been horrendously stupid not to work with you where we're at. Because you got to understand, as an entrepreneur, and we were a coaching business, but from an entrepreneurial side, but not a coaching business where it's just a coach who makes business by coaching other people. If you're already an entrepreneur, then getting shortcuts means leveraging your assets the highest amount and the quickest way possible. And what we had was something completely unique in the marketing, a really great team that is very hard to find. And therefore, we built almost no leverageable assets. Like everything could have been pushed together on the fly with some duct tape and a little bit of spit, because we had people who were so good because they all ran their own business. All our coaches ran their own businesses or coached in a way that was like, you can't train a beginner coach within 2 years to get there, even if you train them every single week. And these kinds of people were there. Like, I don't know what you would have done if those were not there, but I don't know if I could have afforded you, because then the business wouldn't have grown that fast. So it was very impressive for me to see how you could mold this whole thing into the machine that it's becoming today. By now, we're like over 35 people. We have 4 distinct departments. We're running ads at a spend level of over 3 and sometimes 5,000 euros a day. we're making 700K months, and we know how to do consistent over 500, 600K easily. And the only reason we're not making more is, quite frankly, because we have trouble hiring and teaching new people quickly enough. So the amount of customers we can now bring in can actually be helped in the same way. So we keep it slower on purpose. And this is something where I would actually say, this is freaking rare. I mean, how many guys do you know out there who can approach sales and operations and look through the amount of things that could be going wrong and find the path to, this is what you actually need to do in which order in order to be successful? What are you the happiest that of the time? What are you the happiest about of the time that you spent working with us in terms of results that you were getting?
Yeah, for sure sounds like a broken record right now, and that like I've got nothing better to say. But again, it's really working with a team hand in hand, and really collaborating, because you need to understand that to, again, like I said, my biggest promise is money, right? More clients. That for clients to come in, multiple departments need to come together. It's the product, it's the marketing, which marketing itself has the funnel guys, the media buyers, the technicians. Sales needs to come together, setters, closers, managers, right? So it's like a what do you call it, a giant hydra with the multiple heads, right? And really orchestrating them has been nice. Having people like kind of like being team players and being so supportive, and kind of like really being bought into, yeah, okay, cool, Nazim comes on, we're gonna work with him and he's gonna help. And of course, then I had to deliver, and I I did. But it's great, the trust that I hope keeps on growing each time we work together. Yeah, really the people, the mission, and how united we've been. I mean, of course, we have bumps in the road. I think there isn't a single project or relationship or any formation of any sort, for that matter, that doesn't have those. But it's really the ability, because like we had some 1 or 2 months were like absolutely critical, I would say, in our work, but we still kind of like pulled through, and brought this baby back alive. Because in the world of internet, your freaking Google ad account gets shut down, ClickFunnels is down for a day, and this can like spiral down very fast, right? Unless you can kind of like pick yourself together and maybe do like a sprint, right, to kind of like compensate. And sometimes it can take up to a month to to kind of like came back on. And those are actually most dangerous instances, because the longer it drags on, people get fatigued, right? But I can say that even through some of the worst times, wouldn't phase, or if it wouldn't fade, sorry. And even if it faded a little bit, we still managed to pick the pace back on. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking right now because we had our best quarter ever, and we did more in this quarter than we did almost in the entire,
I think
more than twice.
$2 million, no? I think with the $2 million, like 1.8 or something euro, $2 million.
Yeah, we're really close, and the month isn't closed yet because it's 4th of April right now, and we still have closes that are technically coming from last month where just the money wasn't sent yet, or the contract was generated but the payment terms had to be cleared. So these are financially fiduciary.
That's the headline. 2 million in Q1. That's the headline.
And that's in Q1, yeah. And this is not guru math. This is actual closes. This is not stuff that we need to worry about. That's why we're so picky about this. I never have to go with fake or inflated numbers, because we're doing this work, which is crazy because that's our first year. We have clients now who make 120K a week that we can help with our group coaching system because of all the work that we don't have to do figuring out shit by ourselves in all the other areas where you helped. On that note, I mean, you mentioned we were like 2 times we were really not crashing and burning, but there's a lot of problems that happen if you're trying to jury rig this thing until it makes more than $1 million a month. It will fall apart if you don't put knowledge in there that from people who came before. That's why so many startups fail. 90, what's the quota? 98% of startups don't survive the first 2 or 5 years. And we did. Our first 2 years are over. We're stronger than ever, and we're doing it with way less of the hard work and with way more consistency. Where do you think we're going, like, from now on? What do you think?
Wow, 1 million per month is easy, man. We'll get there for sure. For sure. I've
Come
got
on,
zero
come on.
doubts.
We know 1 million a month is easy. We almost did it in January. What's next? What do you think is next?
1 million per month consistently, because that also takes some work.
You
And
do
I
see
know,
some real Nazim magic, by the way. My head's already in the sky planning for the next 2 businesses and go to me, and he's like, let's nail this first. Let's work on this
yeah,
until it's consistent. I'm like, okay, you're right.
yeah. I've seen businesses even do 2 million a month, and then they go down to 100K or 150K, right?
Out.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they have to round up this, and say like, in the year we made like 5 million. But if they manage that, if they sustain that, it will be 12 million. So sustainability, sound like a green hippie now, but sustainability, growth, and then sustainability is super important. But and then after that is 1.5 million sustainably, 22 million sustainably. Yeah. But we're like 1 million plus per month sustainably by Q3 this year, for sure.
Good times ahead.
Maybe
Thank you very
Q4,
much,
maybe
man.
Q4, maybe Q4.
Maybe
Because
Q4.
really, like,
Q3 is summer. That's
yeah.
like, that's the 1 month or that's the one period where it's really, really hard. But we'll figure that out next.
Give me time until Black Friday. We'll be at 1 million plus consistently.
Yes, sir. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that you heard it here first, folks. More on this channel, and thank you very much for your time. Do you have any last words for our dear viewers who will see this rare piece of English content on our social medias?
Sure. I mean, for anyone interested in Thorsten's work, go to thorstenkreutz.de, or is it .com? I should know this.
.com. And the homepage hasn't been worked on for ages because our funnel runs so well. Don't criticize us for that.
Right. And if you're interested in my work, go to nazimconsulting.com. Website also not as maintained. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and socials. The website works, Thorsten. It's not as fancy as some people expect. At the end of the day, I'm too busy running my clients' businesses. So yeah, ping me, we can talk. Thanks for watching, listening, and Thorsten, thanks for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the 40 minutes out of your 11-hour work week. Although I think you're
this
downplaying.
Week out of 12.
Yeah, no, I think you worked way more than that. It's just you enjoy when you work, right? So you don't count it, but I'm pretty sure it's more than 12 hours a week.
It's true right now. Right now, I work more than that, but that's by choice. As I said, building new businesses and divisions is fun. Thank you very much, Nazim. Thanks, guys, for listening. We're out for you. Take care.